You see that line? You know how like all the youth and the TikTokers and the YouTubers and the cool kids, they're like, you know, shaving the lines in their eyebrows. I need everyone to know that I got this when I was like 17 months old. I literally fell and like injured myself and had to get stitches. So I'm so happy that I'm like decades ahead of the trend, and because I think it looks cool. And but it's all natural, man. So that's very important that you know that. Secondly, we're gonna be talking about gold scraps today. And gold scraps, this is a question I get asked all the time, especially after people watch my YouTube videos. They see me like filing, cutting, grinding, all that, and they want to know, do you collect the gold scraps and what happens to them? So in this video, I'm finally gonna be answering that. I'm gonna talk about all the different kinds of gold and precious metal scraps that I collect. And then I'm gonna be talking about all of the options, all of the things that I do with them, which is actually, there's a few different things that's pretty fun. And then lastly, I'm gonna talk about how much are these gold scraps worth? How much do they add up to over time? So before I answer all of these very, very important questions, I definitely need a caffeine run. Okay, so new goal. I am definitely not stopping YouTube until I get my face on an energy drink. Sorry, PewDiePie, I didn't get the PewDiePie energy drink. Primarily because it's 300 milligrams and this is like 80. It's kind of late. I didn't want to be staying up all night. I just realized I have to edit this video after I film it, so shoulda got the G Fuel. Gold scraps, yes. So there are 5 primary types of gold scrap that I collect. The first is like jewelry that people trade in. A lot of times people have old jewelry that they want to use for new projects, but a lot of times they just have so much old jewelry that I can't even use it all for the old project. So I normally give clients the opportunity to just trade in gold that they're not using, and I credit them like 100% of what the scrap value of their gold is. A lot of other, like if you take your gold to a pawn shop or something like that, I don't know what the rates are, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're only offering you like 70% of the scrap value of what your gold is worth, which kind of makes sense because they need to make money and run a business. I, on the other hand, I'm using the gold for projects. So like, I don't mind giving like pretty much 100% of whatever the scrap value of the gold is. So this kind of gold, after it collects over time, it kind of like, I call it like the pirate's booty. And this is gonna be like the quickest way that your scrap value goes up by these bigger pieces of jewelry that get collected over time. The second form of gold scrap that I collect is like the buttons. Now buttons are what is left over when you cast a ring. So when you're casting a ring, you want to make sure that not only is there enough for the entire ring, if you don't pour enough gold into the casting, you'll get an incomplete cast and the whole thing's ruined. So you always want to add a bit of extra metal when you're doing a gold cast. Now this third pile is actually platinum. Platinum, it's actually really important that you keep that separate for refining purposes. Of course, there are ways for them to kind of pick out the platinum if you send it to the refiner, but it's always easiest if you separate your platinum. So that's what this third pile is. For the fourth pile, these are actually like smaller scraps. So these come from like excess from like pouring, when I'm like working with the rolling mill, pouring little ingots. These are like sizing scraps. So like whenever I'm cutting through a ring, like let's say I'm sizing a ring down 2 sizes from like an 8 to a 6. There's a little tiny piece of gold that I cut out of the ring. And you know, if a client ever wants that back, I'll give it back to them, but it's kind of worked into the price when I size a ring. At least when I worked for all those jewelry corporations, they always kind of tell people that us keeping that little tiny piece of gold is, you know, worked into the price. Sometimes, like if you're a client and you want to get that little piece of gold back, like just ask. Like a lot of times jewelry stores will just, they might fight you on it. Some goldsmiths are kind of stingy like that. They're like, they want to keep all their scraps. When I was sizing a bunch of rings, like it really wasn't even worth it for me to like argue with someone about it. If someone wanted their little tiny piece of gold back, I just let them have it back. And this fifth pile is fine sweeps or shavings. So basically when I'm like, you know, filing a ring, you know, after casting, I'm blending it together. These are little tiny pieces of like gold, the little like flecks of gold that like fall into my bench pan. Those get sweeped up. This is like my fine sweeps is kind of what we call this. This last pile is basically like floor sweeps. This is just kind of like praying for a miracle. I mean, not really. I mean, there definitely is gold in the floor sweeps because I work in a goldsmithing studio. So gold is everywhere. So like whenever I'm sweeping, I have a little like shop vac that I'm sometimes just like vacuuming up the floor. And you know, you're not gonna get as much capture here, but you're definitely, like I said, over a long period of time, after 6 months, a year, years, you're definitely going to get some yield from your floor sweeps. Now, the first way to use this scrap metal is to simply refine it. You refine it and you get back pure gold, or you can refine it to any specified carat that you want. And I really love doing this because, you know, using your scrap metal and turning it into fresh alloy means that you can use it in future projects, and also means that the precious metals that you're using for your custom jewelry is recycled. So that's why I'm a big fan of just using scraps for, you know, brand new fresh alloy. The second way to use all the gold and precious metal scraps is to turn it into cold, hard cash. So the cash is great because, you know, you can use it to, you know, reinvest into your business, or, you know, pay the bills or whatever it is. The third way to use the scrap metal is a way that I'm a huge fan of, and that is to take your scrap metal and to trade it in for tools. Now, one of the vendors I use is called Stoller. You might have heard of them if you watched some of my last YouTube videos. But what I've done in the past is I've sent them all of my gold scraps, they refine it, and then they give me an account credit, which can then be put towards tools. So last year I actually did this, and I traded all of my scrap gold for a $10,000 3D printer. Now that was quite nice. The last couple ways to use the scrap metal. Now these are kind of urban legends, but back when I used to work with some jewelers, I'm all alone now. I work by myself. But back when I you know, used to work with people, I heard some kind of urban legends of, oh, this goldsmith, he bought a BMW with his scrap metal. Cool, I guess. If you like cars, you know, but I guess that's the same as like trading in for cash. I don't have a car, I have a bicycle. So, and probably the coolest thing I ever heard was one of the old time goldsmiths who had been working for a decade or two had been saving up his scraps for a really long time, and he was able to pay off his mortgage from the scraps. Now in 2021, I think like all of the scraps would probably, you know, not even equate to a down payment considering how crazy the housing market is right now, but you know, we got it good. And now for the final part of the video, how much are all these gold scraps that I collected worth? And before I kind of give you my estimate, I do have an announcement. It's something that I've kind of, you know, it's come to my attention over the last 10 years or so that I'm bald. So yeah, if you are thrilled that I shared that little tiny insecurity about myself on the internet, go ahead and smash that like button, because that's what YouTube's come to, you know? You gotta lay all your insecurities out there to get the likes. That's a joke, but I mean, go ahead, help me out. Anyway, how much is all of this gold worth? You know, I love to kind of guess, you know, I throw everything on my scale and I kind of try to figure out, you know, well, you know, I look at the stamps, I kind of try to find out the ratio in my head. And I am guessing that this batch of scraps is somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000. Now I know that sounds like a load of money because it really is. But please keep in mind that it's not just all pure profit. Like, I did buy some of this gold in the past, so a lot of these scraps came from gold that I bought, and some of them came from like previously refined, you know, gold that I also had done. So it's like kind of this, you know, the circle of life in the shop where I buy gold, I refine gold, I get free gold, I buy more gold, and it just kind of all, you know, it comes and goes. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you would do with this gold. What do you think I should do with this gold? Because honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards a laser. So yeah, I'm also gonna have a follow-up video in the future showing what I end up doing with these scraps. So, bye.